What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and welcome back for another episode of Poker Hands. Today, we're going to be breaking down a hand that a lot of people really enjoyed. It's a pretty famous hand that happened recently. On that note, let's go ahead and jump into the action.
Batman with two black queens. He bought in for 100K. He's up over 200,000. Eric's got ace 10. Ben with ace 5 suited. Just calls. Four-way action, 21,800 in the pot.
Our hand begins at 200, 400, 800 with a $400 ante and a $1,600 straddle. MrDrBatman looks down, hijack basically under the gun, I think, here, and raises to $5,000 with pocket queens, obviously standard. Now in the cutoff, Eric Persson has ace 10 offsuit. Typically, this is the kind of hand you'd want to either 3-bet or fold. You do have an ace, so you block some of the stronger hands and you have some playability. I think every now and then calling might not be too bad, but I'd probably look to just 3-bet or fold this one with so many players left behind. Anyway, he decides to call. They are a bit deeper stacked. Now the button looks down at ace 5 of spades. Ben here on the button. Similar situation to Eric in that I think I would mainly lean towards 3-betting. However, with the suited ace and being deep and having position and having less players behind, I don't mind flatting this at all. I might 3-bet this every 1 out of 3 times or so, and then I would be calling with the rest. Maybe I would actually 3-bet more than that. I'm going to be honest with you, I'd probably 3-bet a lot. But if I don't 3-bet, I'm definitely going to be calling here in position with ace 5 of spades, so I like this play. Now to the straddle, Kennedy looks down at King Jack. Already $1,600 out there. This is a very reasonable hand to call with. In fact, that's probably your main play. Every once in a blue moon, you can go for a squeeze, but realistically, you'd rather have hands with better equity or better playability or better removal. So I do like call, which he makes, and let's take a flop. We already got $20,000 in there, guys. This is going to be a big one.
Ace 10, 8. Top 2 for Eric. Top pair for Ben. A gut shot for Kennedy. But as we can see, 2 of the queens are occupied. Pretty ambitious for Batman to bet here. But he does. Eric calls. Great fold there.
The flop comes ace 10, 8, 2 hearts. So huge flop here for Eric. He flops top 2. Gutter for Kennedy, top pair for Ben, and MrDrBatman's queens now in dire shape. He bets 15,000 to 21,000 on the flop. I don't really like this bet. I do think this is a board where you're going to want to be using a big bet size if you do bet. So the size looks good to me. I just don't think queens are going to be a hand you want to put in there. I'd rather be betting with hands like sets or 2 pairs or ace king or ace queen. And then I would also look to try and bluff with some hands like queen jack suited, jack 9 suited, king queen of hearts, stuff like that. I'll also say that I think this big of a bet probably happens less when you have 4 players on the flop. I wouldn't mind seeing something a little more like 1/3 or half pot, given how many players are in this hand still. But this type of board does tend to like a larger bet size. Anyway, once he bets, now Eric has an interesting spot here in the cutoff. He can go for a raise or for a call. Both are totally fine. He decides just to slow play it and call. Now over to the button. I think for Ben here with the ace with the bad kicker, I think this is actually probably just a fold. It's kind of tough to fold top pair in the flop, and in the moment you might look to try and fight for it. But there are a couple guys who can both have him totally toast. The big blind behind, or the straddle rather, can also have flop something big. There are going to be no clean outs for him. Basically, I think this is actually a pretty wise spot to just get off the train, and he does so. I think this is a pretty smart move. I wouldn't be surprised if every now and then you do call with an ace here in position, but given how big the flop size is and how many players there are, this is one of the situations I think he makes a smart laydown, getting away from what can be a very bad situation. Now for Kennedy, King Jack. Queen gives him the nuts, and he does have a heart as well. I think folding's probably good. You can probably call here when you have Queen Jack suited or Jack 9, maybe some heart hands as well. I wouldn't hate a call here. You're gonna have a few clean outs to the nuts. But I also think it's very reasonable just to fold in the flop, which he does decide to do. So we are heads up, and let's take a turn.
Eric now with a full house. That's a really, really good fold by Ben. I mean, the guy is on mega tilt, right? And he just folds ace 5 like it's nothing. I don't know what Batman's doing here. I'm not going to lie. He raised, he got called in 3 spots. Then he bets. The next player to act calls him. And I just don't know what story he's trying to tell here. Like, what does he think his opponent has?
I'll call.
Eric's just going to call here. Batman not drawing dead, by the way. There was 1 queen live.
The turn comes at 10, the gin card here for Eric. He now has a full house. No draw can possibly beat him. MrDrBatman now with pocket queens, it really needs to slow down. I think when you have queens, you actually block some of the hands you want your opponent to have, like queen jack suited, maybe a king queen or queen 9, although I don't think those are too likely in under the gun versus the cutoff. He decides to continue barreling here, essentially turning his queens into a bluff. I would way rather have some equity. I guess it's good he doesn't have a heart and that now a bunch of heart hands we're going to have to fold this turn because it paired. But I would much rather prefer to bluff with something that unblocks the bluff. So for example, if he had pocket 5s here, this makes more sense because his opponent has more straight draws. When he has queens, it's less likely Eric has some kind of straight draw himself. I do think you should mainly check this turn, though. This is not a very good card for the opener, and you now do not have very many value bets, and those value bets are completely nutted and don't need to knock hands out of the pot. Anyway, he bets 50K. Now over to Eric. I think this is a very clear call. You want to keep MrDrBatman's range wide, and if he is bluffing, you want to give him a chance to continue firing on the river. You're not going anywhere. You have the second nuts. It's just about trying to get your opponent to put in as much money as possible. Eric does decide to make the call, and let's take a river.
152,000 in it. That is not a queen. 7 of hearts. And now Batman slows down. I mean,
I would never do that. No, I mean, I wouldn't do it for you. No. She said, you want to talk? I said, yes.
10 seconds. 130.
Eric goes 130 into 150. There should be an insta-fold. I don't know what you're beating. Jack 9 got there. A 10 was already there.
The river comes the 7 of hearts, completing the flush. Now MrDrBatman finally slows down. Hearts have gotten there. He does not have an ace. He does not have a full house. This is not a spot where you want to be doing very much betting here out of position. You should probably mainly just be checking and looking to play your range out of a check raise. Now over to Eric with his full house. He has a pretty clear spot to be betting. The question is really what size should he go for? The pot's 150K. I think that you can make a good argument for a lot of different bigger bet sizes here. I think all in wouldn't even be that ridiculous, although when you have an ace and a 10, it's a little bit worse. Maybe all in is preferred with a hand like pocket 8s or a hand like if you had Jack 9 of hearts for a straight flush where you unblock a lot of the calls. I think also smaller sizes here like 100K seem to be pretty solid. I don't mind either choice. Eric decides to go for about 80% pot, bets 130,000, about 85% pot. Now back over to Batman. With queens, you just have a fold here, man. And look, like, it sucks when things get bad for queens. And MrDrBatman, of course, plays his hands in some pretty aggressive and adventurous ways. But this isn't even a very good hand to bluff with. If you're going to bluff, you would rather have a hand like ace 8 suited, ace 7 suited. Not that I think those hands bet the flop that often. Maybe you want to have a hand like 8-7 suited. Maybe you want to have a hand like ace king and turn that into a bluff where you can block the boats, but you don't block some of the draws. I actually think, interestingly, I'd rather not have a heart here. I want my opponent to have a flush because I'm going to try and represent a full house when I check raise all in. Either way, this hand is one that you should fold. But there's something to be said in spots like this. When your opponent bets a huge size and you under check raise, min raise, jam all in on the river, it looks strong as f***. It looks incredibly strong. I mean, how often do you see someone do something like this in their bluffing? I really can't remember many times in the history of watching poker. So if your opponent does have a hand like a flush here and is betting for value, or maybe if Eric had a hand like Jack 10 and was going for some thin value, they're going to be in a terrible, terrible, terrible situation. So I do think there is something to be said for being willing and capable of making some crazy moves for even small raises where you can find some bluffs. Those things said, this hand is not a good candidate. You need to block the full houses, and you can only really do stuff like this once in a blue moon. If you do it very often, your opponent can just call when they value bet and know that you're bluffing too frequently. So while I can admire the spirit of MrDrBatman here to try and make a big move, this is definitely not a good hand to do so with. Okay, back over to Eric. He's got a full house. Do I really need to break that down for you?
All in.
Yeah, wow.
Call.
All in and a call.
Give it. Here you go. Here's another tilt card. I'll take it all. Thank you, sir. So good to play with you. I'm just needling. Isn't that fun? Isn't that the point, to needle?
You know what? You're not wrong.
I mean, that's what he wants to do, right? He wants to needle.
I'm gonna shut up. You're not wrong.
I didn't bring this to the game, he did. But now all his chips are mine, right at the end of the fucking stream. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. Mr. Batman.
Good sportsmanship, bro. Good sportsmanship.
Oh, I don't have good sportsmanship.
It's
I'm here for all of
pretty
it.
fucking apparent, actually.
You think needling people is good sportsmanship when you fucking get stacked with double aces? You think that's good sportsmanship? That's what you believe? You think that's all in fun? This is real money.
You don't say.
Yeah,
It's real money.
it's real money.
I have to say, and I'm obviously a little biased here because MrDrBatman is a Lodge player and wearing a Lodge hat, I felt like this might have gone a little over the line. I know Batman was being quite annoying with the bad beat notes and whatnot, but I mean, this is a pretty monster pot, and to needle someone that aggressively, I definitely wouldn't do that. I only needle people on YouTube where I can hide in my house. Anyway, that's going to be it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this channel, hit subscribe. Join the team. Tons of content coming at you. I think you guys believe me by now, right? It's been a little while posting content every day. So hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications because you don't want to miss what we've got coming. All right, I'll see you guys again soon. Thank you for joining.